And so the concept of functional fitness has been massacred within YouTube fitness. This term functional training is such an umbrella term. So many different training applications can fall under this term functional training. And so if you hear people say, this is functional training and this is not functional, that is just in many cases disingenuous. And these people generally don't understand the breadth of what functional training can mean. And so within mainstream fitness and YouTube fitness, the functional training I see, I would actually categorize as movement training. These training methods which are using alternative pieces of equipment which are heavily movement based, which have direct applications to sport, athletic performance, or daily activity. And most certainly that is one part of functional training. However, there are many other parts. For example, the barbell has many functional applications to it. Just because your wrists are in a locked, fixed position on a barbell does not mean that it's not a functional piece of equipment. The function of these compound movements, barbell movements, are significant, and they do translate to sports performance. They do translate to your daily life. They do activate muscle groups. They do work through ranges of motion. And so when I see people really disregard the barbell as a piece of functional equipment, that's just not correct. And one very functional training application is correcting muscle imbalances, and that's the focus of this video. And one of the most common imbalances is to do with the rotator cuff muscles, and I've been guilty of this myself. And let's be honest, pressing movements are fun and we love to do them and we get excited by them. External rotation is not that exciting, and it can be neglected within macro cycles. And so for me, one of the most common muscle imbalances is to do with the muscles surrounding the glenohumeral joint, the shoulder joint, this ball and socket joint. And as I said, this is because we tend to see that people are very press dominant within their training.
One direction. 80s for the ladies. 85s for the guys. These are hundreds.
And also internally rotated positions have the potential for a great amount of force. So you can go to the gym, you can increase your strength. It's all exciting and good stuff. And generally these external rotation exercises, which help to balance out the pressing motions, are generally not as exciting in my opinion. And also you have to perhaps use a lighter weight due to the mechanical position of externally rotating and the amount of force that you can generate. All the muscles within the rotator cuff have a specific function in relation to the attachment of the humerus into the glenohumeral joint. And so if we overdevelop our deltoids in our chest, we actually knock that humerus out of correct balance. And the problem with this is that it can lead to impingement, specifically the impingement of the tendons in relation to the acromion. If we have development of the deltoids pushing the humerus upwards, then it is the development of the rotator cuff muscles which can counteract this and keep it within a functional position. We need to use preventative training. Or if you do have these muscle imbalances, you need to correct it. And so if you are not familiar with the rotator cuff muscles, here's a quick rundown. We have the supraspinatus, supra meaning above the spine of the scapula. And so you can think of the supraspinatus as initiating the abduction of the glenohumeral joint, aka lifting up your arm. And then we have the infraspinatus, below the spine of the scapula. And this is an important muscle for the external rotation. And then the teres minor, which is a small muscle, but this also aids and supports in this external rotation. And we also have the subscapularis, sub meaning it's lying underneath the scapula. And this muscle within the rotator cuff actually is involved in internal rotation due to its attachment point on the humerus. And so if you know the movement of the anatomy, you know how to strengthen it. If we know that external rotation is a function of these muscles, how do we strengthen it? Through external rotation exercises. Now you can use the cable machine, which is particularly flexible and useful and creates a good amount of tension through the strength curve. But here's the main problem. People either go too light or too heavy. Now, you need to train these muscle imbalances as you would any other muscle group. You need to use the principles of overload and progression. So if you go too light, this is not an effective way to build strength within those small muscle groups. And by contrast, if you are going too heavy, the real issue with this is form. Form is so vital for corrective exercises because you purely want to isolate those rotator cuff muscles. You do not want to involve the deltoids, for example. And so you must make sure you have strict form. For example, with external rotation of the cable machine, keeping the elbows tucked. You just want to make sure that you are feeling that contraction of the muscle you are targeting. And so I discussed some of the benefits of cables and resistance bands in my last video, and I talked about the strength curve in my last video, which is applicable to this. So I've linked that down below, so please go and watch my last video on lateral raise biomechanics, which also involves the glenohumeral joint. So I'm James Linker, this is Shredded Sports Science. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you soon.